Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, the podcast where three friends, three amigos are about to talk about Dune. It's me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me is
Miguel Sanchez
and Ed Bull.
Yes, this is the weekly podcast where we talk about nerd shit. We always talk about the news, the feature discussion, and what we're into. This is a big week. Everyone's talking about Dune, and so we're going to talk about Dune. Dune Part 2. And listen, we all know what you're here for. We're going to talk about Dune. But let's
just get into it. Okay,
let's get into Dune. All right. Paul Atreides unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge. Wait,
Fremen.
What did I say? Fremen? Oh yeah. So unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge against conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he must prevent a terrible future only he can foresee.
That's hot.
First thoughts. Everyone's kind of first thoughts. Ed, are you ready to go? Are you ready to give your thoughts?
I do. Guys, I wrote notes and I actually brought them home.
Oh God, We'll be here all night. If you let him start, we'll never get off.
No, but notes are supposed to prevent that. So I want to take you guys back to Caladan in part 1. Okay. So as you guys know, I saw it first in IMAX, and then I saw it again last night in regular 2D. Guys, I thought this movie definitely lived up to the promise of part 1. I felt like with most of the exposition taking place in part 1, it felt like this movie came in like a little freer, a little bit more like
ready to go.
Yeah, a little bolder, like ready to go to some weird places. And now that you're comfortable with like who all the players are, most of the places, and like the mythos surrounding like the politics and the religions and stuff like that, it was just like fun to really dive into this, and it's just so fucking epic. Like if you walk away from this movie with anything, like, I mean, come on, it is so grand in scale. It is so just, I'm going to use the word epic a lot, but it is epic. Like, the ensemble, the landscapes, everything, the action sequences. I do have maybe some minor quibbles about maybe some character developments and maybe some plot developments, but we'll get into that later. But like overall, like the sheer epicness of it makes up for any of the shortcomings I felt maybe it had. Like I was so gripped with everything that was going on from start to finish. Like it did what it set out to do. I was very happy with it. And even if they don't make a third one, or if they do make a third one, I'm content.
It seems very likely that there will be a third one.
It's coming.
It's coming.
And Denis Villeneuve also said like that would be like ideally I want to do a trilogy, and he can kind of wrap his head around that. So,
but what I do know for sure is that this wrapped up the book.
Yes,
the first book. So anything going forward is from like the other books.
It's going to be from Dune Messiah.
Finishing Dune Messiah specifically. But Denis Villeneuve has said like he wants to finish the story specifically of Paul Atreides kind of thing.
Miguel, what were your thoughts on?
Just one up for Frank. I think this movie was solid. Just what a great time this movie was. Okay. I came into this. If you guys remember, I walked out of the first Dune movie the first time I saw it because I was like a little like sleepy. I was a little bored. I didn't want to do it. When I actually sat down and watched the movie, though, phenomenal. Okay, so I was pretty excited to see this one, and I agree with that. It totally lived up to the hype. Yeah. I have general thoughts about my experience. I don't know if we want to get into it, but we talked. Ed, you saw it in IMAX. Luis, what did you see it in?
I saw it in Dolby because this is playing like Oppenheimer, where IMAX is just being taken over for weeks on end, and so the next best option was Dolby. Yes, good job, Ed. the next good thing was Dolby, and I did a little digging actually, and I noticed that some shots are taller, filling up that IMAX ratio, and some shots are actually zoomed in a little bit, so you crop off the edges just a tiny bit. So
Denis.
the Dolby version, on some scenes, you'll get more of a wider view and more of the picture, and in IMAX, on certain scenes, you will get a taller view. So it's a little bit. It is a mixed bag of which one you will get the full.
It's
view.
always that. Yeah, it's never a seamless journey, is it?
But
whenever they go like full IMAX or whatever.
As far as like the Dolby, it's yes, you get the Dolby Vision, but the Dolby Atmos sound, which is
sound.
I bet the sound was
you, and the chairs vibrate you when they're fighting. When he's riding that sandworm. He's just, you could feel the vibrations, and I sat pretty close. I sat in row E, and it felt very big, so that helped.
Guys, I like Luis has really put me on to Dolby. You know what I mean? I feel like Ed too. Like Luis, he's talked about Dolby enough, and I feel like we've seen enough movies that it's like, that's because like my IMAX is a laser IMAX. It's not the true one. Okay? But I tell you what, every time I pick a Dolby, like I don't ever walk away
disappointed.
Disappointed.
The two times that I did it were for the Batman. And the first time was obviously on your recommendation, Luis. Yeah. And the second time was like, we have to see it on Dolby Atmos. Because that movie was perfect for that.
Those blacks were so black, you know?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, honestly, that movie, he didn't do an IMAX release. That movie was like made for Dolby. So
100%.
But that's how I agree with Luis. My whole theater experience was vibrations, which I thought was just, it felt so perfect for this movie. Not only was like, you know what I mean, like the picture vibrating in front of me with like, but also the score, the sound itself. Like I started in the very back. I showed you guys that seat I bought was like at the very back row, kind of middle. And the only reason I moved is because I had to go pee, but also that whole empty row when I bought it, like the afternoon before the movie, filled up. So it was like everyone was sitting right on top of me. Anyway, I ended up coming back and the whole front, like 3 rows were empty. So I sat in like the third front row middle. Which I know what you're saying, because like when I saw Oppenheimer and I moved up front at one point, I was like, oh, this was a mistake. This is way too big. But it was honestly fucking perfect. Like no one was around me, front, back, middle. The screen was just big enough that I didn't have to really raise my neck. And the sound that was just as vibrant and strong in the back. It fucking right in front of me, dude. Now. I fucking hate this shit. No, the overall experience, like I felt like hugged by this movie. You know what I mean?
Very immersive. Luis, let's say like your overall.
So I think everyone is saying the same thing. I'm going to ring it true because it's obviously true. The visuals are stunning. Specifically, I think with Denis Villeneuve is, rewatching some of his movies like Blade Runner and Sicario and Prisoners and Arrival. Like he kills it with these silhouettes. Like backlighting these people and creating these shadowy shapes is like his thing, and it's his game. He loves to create this kind of hard contrast. Even it like hella showcased when we went to that what's the world prima I'm looking at my Dune sheet here. What's that planet? Gedi Prime. Yeah, with the black sun and all that contrast. But even with the bright ass sun, like his silhouettes are great. The production design is very grounded and simple, and I feel like a lot of people are gravitating to this because you're looking at the Hollywood industry now. Everything is so big and colorful and too much, and he just simplifies it and grounds it exactly. And Hans Zimmer, I think this score is
so good. I've been jamming to so much.
I've been listening to this one more than I've been listening to the first one, and he's really found himself. And it's really interesting because Villeneuve is almost like a Nolan-esque type of guy, where he's using practical things and he's shooting it as practical, but integrating with visual effects. And so those two are very hand in hand, and it was very nice to see them like go throughout the internet as little partners, and they're both using Hans, and maybe one day he'll also use Ludwig Göransson in one of his movies. I can see it. The pacing was the editing in each specific scenes, like all these visions and the way they play it back and forth were really good. And I'm already putting this as one of the nominees for the Oscars for best editing, and I think a high potential of winning 100%. As well.
Yeah,
and the baby image. I'm not done yet, boys. I got a whole. Let me just talk this real quick. The baby images, the images of that baby inside.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I want this man to be directing Death Stranding. I don't play the game, but imagine him directing the video game Death Stranding. What do you think about it, Denis? Direct Death Stranding now. We want it. You can do this, my boy.
Yo, Kojima was just fucking talking about this movie on Twitter today. You know what I mean? Like,
if he watches that movie, he's like, that's how I would want it to be done.
Yes.
So now the other part of my experience of this movie. It is a mixed bag for me. It is better than the first one. I will say I rewatched the first one and it wasn't a more enjoyable experience watching the second one now. I still didn't love it as much. It does still feel like an ellipses. And for this movie, outside of the technical things, I think that at certain times there are a lot of themes at play, but for me, it doesn't really coalesce around a human connection. For example, the love between Paul and Chiani. At the very end,
right?
It doesn't land for me, and I feel like we just kind of muddle over it with all these like montages and visuals, and he's talking about
montages.
It's a lot of visuals, and he talks about like. Which I'm fine with. He was saying, "Oh, there's too much dialogue, and I just want to perform things with visuals."
Right.
But
there's a balance,
There's a balance, and I get it. You can do that visually, but it didn't really land as like this is my. I didn't feel that heartbreak when it happened. When they're like, "I'm going to leave you, and I'm going to go this other direction."
Wow.
So that's also a thing. And then the very first half of this movie, I was kind of. Outside the visuals, I was like, "What?" I want to know why the Fremen I know intellectually why they want to be free from this oppression, but I want to feel why they want to be free from this oppression. I see that there's conflict between like, we want the Lizard Gib to be here, and then there's another camp who's like, no, we don't believe that. And there are going back and forth. There is conflict that way, but I want to personally feel like these invaders have ruined our lives here in Arrakis, and we desperately need you to step up, And I know the first half was showcasing like how he was taking down the people, and he was
more
like,
focused on the
him being a badass. Yeah. And he was look how much of a badass he is. And so I get it, he's a badass, but let me see a little bit of why there's some conflict, and then that's why the second half, a lot of more conflict. But I think it buckled underneath all the things they had to introduce. They had to introduce Austin Butler. They had to like get this thing going. Like, and then when he drinks the juice and he's like, "I'm gonna kill everybody," and all this stuff. For me, that like montage and visual dream, I was like, wait, I feel like I kind of missed his like his turn a little bit. I saw it happen, but I just wasn't like, whoa. It kind of. I got a little whiplash with that decision. And so things kind of didn't land as much as I would have appreciated it. But I think, I don't know. I have a lot more thoughts, but that's just my general thoughts that we can
No, those are all a lot of things that I do want to get into. I figured we'll get to it as we
can get to it now, baby. I'm
discuss each moment. But overall, Luis, you said you enjoyed it. Right,
I think it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag because when I've watched it and kind of watched it again, I was like, hell yeah, oh hell yeah, oh hell yeah, oh, like it kept oscillating between the two, but the visuals and the technicalness of it all, like it sings, and so it's kind of you are allowed to like ride that wave. It's like a song where the lyrics are like, oh, I don't really vibe with the lyrics so much, but that beat,
the song itself is,
I 100% agree.
The story and the plot is something that maybe,
but
it's also like the source material. Yeah,
this is the same. Yes, the source material. Also, I feel like Denis Villeneuve is not a sentimental director. I'm not going to say cold because I feel like there is passion. Like,
which I've heard people say about this, like it's a little cold.
Yeah, But you feel the passion, and so you kind of get swept up in it. I will say, I don't think I had any emotional resonance with any of the characters per se, but I did like. I enjoyed the characters and the world that is set up. I feel,
and it had a lot of interesting themes as well. Like,
100%. One thing I wanted to bring up was that it, like, at the end of it, like, for all its kind of like triumphant grandeur and the triumphant ending, like the sweeping music and kind of effectively the good guys winning, but it's actually a really dark ending.
Yes,
to this, which I kind of love. It's like uniquely dark for a blockbuster on this scale, which I'm sure is like what people felt about like Star Wars. Like these days, if I go back and watch Star Wars, like The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, there is admittedly like a little bit of sentimental resonance with that, where I do get like emotional. Whereas with this, it's not. I mean, maybe like if upon rewatch later, I'll feel that way, but because it's so new and you're taking everything in, but like I didn't feel like that, but I was, engaged with the conflict and with what was going on with each character. Like Paul's development throughout, especially this film, I thought was.
I really enjoyed.
I thought it was perfectly staged.
Yeah.
The way that it happened, like he was fighting, he was resisting the Messiah persona for so long, and then he it's kind of tragic how he has to just embrace it because everybody is pushing him to do it. It does just reveal the one. It's kind of like Doctor Strange in Infinity Wars. Right. It's like he found a path that was like the least violent, but it's still destructive. Yeah. It's still destructive for the universe. It's manipulative.
It reminds me of Hereditary a bit, where everyone is just kind of being played a little. It's just like your 100%. Future is already set. You just have to play the piece, and you just have to ride the wave. Just so. It's kind of like a tragedy in that sense.
This is just like another chapter in a greater scheme.
What was that line that was said? It's like there's plans within plans or something like that.
Yeah, there are no sides. It's what we plan, and the Bene Gesserit are the puppet masters of the whole thing. Like
we're trying to get that. What's it called? The quiz.
That perfect. Quiz Hadat or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, Ed, my goodness. Yeah.
I've been
say that again.
Kwisatz Haderach.
Oh.
So that sounds better the first time.
Quizizat or something like that.
I might be saying,
The Quizizat Haderach.
Also, you were like, I've been saying it.
I've been saying like a lot of like Shai Halud and Lisan Al-Gaib. I mean, it's just like,
Lisa.
You gotta love it. You gotta love the world that they created, where those you get pumped for Shai Halud and all of that. But yes,
I always think it's crazy. Sorry, I always think it's crazy when actors like learn a fake language for a movie. You know what I mean? Like these Fremen, like especially Javier Bardem. You know what I mean? Like his whole thing is like he learned English or whatever to make movies. So this is already like a second language for him. And then on top of that, they're like, "Hey, by the way, here's a fake language for you to learn," and he does it believably,
and he delivers it with comedic timing. Now you can love it or hate it, whether he did the comedy, whatever. But he was hitting that comedy with another language. I was like, "How are you doing that?"
But it's not goofy. It's not goofy. It lands it's effective. You believe his
I don't want to be the Messiah. It's like, oh, how humble he is. He
you believe his religious fervor about it. Like he's excited genuinely about it, and it's just Javier Bardem fucking.
I remember when I rewatched
International treasure.
When I rewatched it, I swear I heard him say it in English, and then I rewatched and he said it in another language. I was like, holy shit, this guy, he could deliver.
He's selling it. You know what I mean?
He's selling it,
And that's what I mean. I think it's so crazy that, it just sounds so believable.
Yeah, totally.
And then she's even like, "Oh, you didn't catch his accent? Like, bitch, she's talking in a whole nother dialect, basically."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh shit! Oh, all right, my bad. You're right." I did kind of group y'all together. That was fucked up.
Since we're talking about her, I do want to say, like, I do kind of agree with you, Luis. Like, after, you know, the initial rush of the film itself, like, watching it a second time is like, I do wish there was more, because you barely get to see Zendaya in the first movie. Yeah. I do wish there were, you felt more of that connection. And I mean, they're both naturally pretty good actors that they sell it. I think there is, like, a relationship and a respect there, like, and they work well together. I think just like I would have liked a little bit more depth so that last scene was more devastating.
The very first couple scenes feel very honeymoon-esque, where, you know, these two young pups are in love, and then, yes, you see them like have sex, and you see how close they get, and you see how intimate they are, and kind of like living their everyday life.
But like half the movie, she looks like she's about to murder him. Like when she's looking at him. Yeah.
Miguel, what are your thoughts on
that? I'm not trying to rile you up right now, Miguel. I still love this movie, but I do.
No, it's not about the movie. I'm genuinely ready to fight you about Zendaya. Like, I thought
she did a really good job of what was given to her.
I agree.
And the fact that I really like how this first movie she's the bookend to part 1 and part 2. No. She starts off part 1 as like, I love my country, I love Arrakis, and then she ends it with staying at Arrakis, and it's like her through line is true. It's like, I'm here for the people. I'm here for my hometown.
Respectfully to both of you, I'm not going to sit here and say she did fine with what she was given. I thought she rocked this role. I walked away going, there were moments where, not for Zendaya, there were moments throughout the entire film that my jaw hit the floor. And when he goes, "Oh, I'll marry you, Florence Pugh," I felt that shit. That was a shocking moment. I felt betrayed for her. I've never really resonated with Zendaya other than like Euphoria. Like, I thought she was really good in Euphoria.
Yeah.
Which I guess
I'm just saying, like, everybody says that, and that's my thing with Zendaya is like, I never experienced Euphoria. I keep wanting to say Zoophoria, and it's not a Disney film.
Sequel to Zootopia.
But like,
I guess, yeah.
So outside of that, I've only really ever seen her in Spider-Man. So I've just never felt like I've never gotten the big deal.
Oh man.
But I
hear you.
Again, I don't think she did it. I don't think anybody acted poorly in this film at all.
I agree.
No, I'm purely talking about how their relationship was depicted. I just wish there was more oomph to it. And I'm also a guy who just like loves to cry in a movie. And I just want. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll finish.
That's it. I just wanted to.
I think you're saying I wish the relationship would have hit more. And I feel like that's on Timothée Chalamet. You know what I mean? I feel like you're saying you didn't get it from that angle, but we're not going to act like Zendaya didn't act her heart out to love this man. You know what I mean? And then at the end, he goes, "Oh, fuck the blonde bitch." You know what I mean? Sorry, that was a little misogynistic, but you know what I'm saying. It just
I think that was
this foreigner is going to go with another foreigner. You know what I mean?
But for him, he was on something else. Like, I felt his level that he was riding on in that moment. Like, he had that wild-eyed look in his face. The scene before,
wild off that spot.
By the way, to our audience and listeners, huge spoilers alerts. If you haven't seen Dune 2. Like, if we're about to get into it. But yeah, so like at the ending of this, like the scene after the worm attack, and he busts into the throne room and fucking shanks the Baron.
He was going hard in that room. You know what I mean?
Oh, I loved it. And then in the aftermath of the fight, I mean, the whole build up to the fight and the aftermath, but that moment of sincerity to Zendaya when he's like, I will love you till my last breath. Like, I did feel that. Like, that was, you felt like his struggle there. Like, he knew everything that was about to happen, and he just had to accept it. Like, he was like, what I'm about to do, I'm going to lose you. Because, I mean, frankly, I've already lost you already because you keep giving me murder eyes. Yeah, exactly. And
Are they murder eyes?
You guys remember? Yeah, 100%. She was about to stab him in the fucking gullet. And I kept thinking, but the reason I thought that was also in the first movie too. They depict her stabbing him in like some of his dream sequences.
I don't remember that.
And because I don't know the story, I was just like, is she like actually going to stab him? Like, we
saw her slap him for drinking the water of life.
Exactly.
I was going to say, hang on. That to me was
that was a great scene,
a great moment.
Yeah,
like the whole. But it's just like everyone was like, "Oh, fucking Lisa Paladine," and here she comes and she's like,
"Wait,
she smacks the shit out of him," and it's like everyone thought he was a god or whatever, and she was like, "No, I know who you are, and I already fucking told you, we're not doing this shit."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I loved how, she was going against the grain when everyone was praising him. She was like walking up. He's like, what are you doing? And then Gertie or whatever, like pulled him down. Listen, like, don't do this. And everybody kneels at the end and she doesn't kneel and she doesn't lean.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I know they were doing a bit and it was a little bit of like whatever hubris on her part, but he shanks her down. He's like, get down here, but whatever. But she, in this room where they already told him the only way you can speak is by killing this man over here to have the right to speak. And she took that moment to be like, you're all fucking sheep. I don't mean to sound like a Republican. Yeah. You sheep. But no, she was like, you fucking rubes. Like, this is what is oppressing us. This is what's keeping us down.
Yes.
And I was just like, yes, bitch. Like, fucking tell him he's wrong.
Yeah.
Even when it goes against like the whole vibe of the room, you know?
Yeah.
And she was outplayed in that moment or whatever. And it was a really powerful moment. I really did love it. Was such a complex.
Miguel, I feel like you're taking it as though we're saying she did a bad job.
No one's going to tell me Zendaya can't act, okay?
I wouldn't have ever suggested it. I would never have suggested it.
There's only one way to make sure that...
listen, I'm getting behind a Gen Zer right now, okay? I'm like, no, that bitch can act, okay? Like,
I know she can. I just say I would like...
She's not someone's girlfriend. She is like she is
a lot
up
of
there.
scenes. I know.
It comes to you wanted Denny to explore that relationship more.
Yes, I am looking forward to. They foreshadowed it in the first movie, right? Like where he even says it in this movie, like no, she comes around or whatever. And then there's like that shot from the first movie where they're standing there, both blue eyed with their
on
hair, their glorious locks flowing in the wind.
Oh yeah,
and you're
locks.
like, okay. First off, not only is she going to show up for him because they're the couple, right? But she's going to be like, "Yo, Florence, get out of here!"
She's going to be the one to kill him.
I'll watch it. I'll watch
it too. But that's the great thing, and that's why I want to see more of that. Like because the deception will feel all the harder and stuff like that. Not a bad performance at all, Miguel. Please don't take it as
I didn't realize Zendaya was going to be the talking point either. Like,
we need to give her more scenes.
We haven't gotten to so many things. It's just like a natural. It was just a natural. That's where we landed. That's. You know.
So anyway, this is why Timothée Chalamet is a bad actor.
I'll fight that fight too, you know.
Timothée
Chalamet. No, he's like, it's actually Chalamet. Yeah, you're like, where'd that accent come from?
Did you see that video? Austin Butler's
doesn't know what a scone is.
Austin Butler's like, does your mom even call you that? And he's like, no. My mom doesn't call me that.
Yo, he's in that ruthless mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yo, let's talk Austin. We should talk Austin Butler real quick.
Yeah,
right?
let's do it.
Butler, yeah.
Okay.
Fade Routher.
This was one of those like when we talk about how they compare movies to The Dark Knight, Empire Strikes Back, or whatever, they also compared like Austin Butler's performance to like all these high class like villain plus just like acting roles in general. So I came in pretty hot for Austin Butler. I was like, yo, let me see what we're talking about. Like I was like the Bene Gesserit. I was like, okay. What's he doing? You know,
I hold here the gum jabba.
Yes, it was expensive. it was expensive to get here, but now we get to see what he's all about, you know?
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, oh, okay. It felt very like I did it and I'm done. And it just, I didn't feel like taken aback in the way that I expected to be.
I mean, you gotta blame that on the fucking hype, though. Like, people, I mean, the first fucking 5 days, I'm sorry, but the meme culture of this movie is so obnoxious already.
It's insane.
It's so obnoxious. But like, Miguel, that hype you're talking about leading up to it, like, as soon as people started saying that about Austin Butler, it's just like, you guys just put these movies, these performances, these characters, this story into a corner. And it doesn't even compare. This is not The Dark Knight. This is not a Batman movie, but purely on its own merits, not because it copied it or anything like that. There's no moment where it's just like, that was like The Dark Knight. No, it wasn't. And I didn't know. Did I leave this film thinking like Austin Butler was the best Fade Routher yet out of him and Sting? No, but I thought he did a really fucking good job.
Yeah, I agree. I think hype did kind of overkill that performance because, you know, like, let's live up to it. I wasn't necessarily going into it thinking you are Batman, you are Empire, you are whatever.
The Godfather. Right.
Exactly. But I did expect, some caliber. I was like, okay, well, they're saying you're up here. Like, let's see it. But I walked away going, I just didn't think maybe just like, screen time wise, like he was not there as much as some other characters.
To make that kind of imprint.
Exactly.
They didn't give enough because it fell at the very end. They were rushing because it's a movie. You only have a certain amount of time, and you try to keep it 2:45, and he comes into a place where you have to keep up. Almost halfway after the halfway point.
Almost halfway. Yeah.
He is the halfway.
Yeah. Which is fine. Like rewatching it last night, I understood like why they introduced him at that
to amplify that.
I mean, you start introducing him earlier, it's kind of a distraction, and there's no reason to immediately go back to him. So he would have been introduced, and then you wouldn't have heard from him again.
And so story-wise, that would have felt weird.
Yeah, I mean, but you feel it, like, because that whole first half of the movie, unlike Dune Part 1, that whole first half really just follows Paul and Jessica in Arrakis. It doesn't cut back to the Emperor or Florence Pugh. It doesn't cut to the Harkonnens or anything like that. I mean, it does, but very briefly. So it was like a different rhythm for sure.
Not only Austin Butler, like the hype for him, but can I say just the Harkonnens in general? I thought the first movie, they were absolutely terrifying. Every time the Harkonnens, especially Baron Harkonnen, was on screen, like I was legit like catching my breath. Yeah. I didn't feel like they were as scary in this one. Now there were some really cool visuals, especially in the beginning, and at the fight scene where he's at his like name day or whatever.
Yeah,
but hell yeah.
I think that first half is purposely made to have them look like fools. They're supposed to made look like fools by Muad'Dib, and they're like, you got to get this shit under control, bro. And then they have to bring in Austin Butler to do it.
But I will say, like, I just didn't feel as intimidated by him as I did the first movie with the Harkonnens. So and the fact that they're also being kind of like made a mockery of, I was like, oh, okay, here's this guy, and he's gonna like. I think Ed, you said Joffrey earlier, or Louis, maybe it was you, but like, maybe he's gonna be like a Joffrey, and we're gonna see him do that, but it's like it just didn't feel that way.
That.
Did either of you say that, or was I
didn't say that?
I think you said
you know
that.
what? Maybe I just read that shit on the internet, and I was just like, obviously my friends would say this.
He's like a Joffrey character. Miguel, stop drinking.
Someone said that. I'm pretty sure. No.
Are you talking to the fetus in your tummy right now?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What's up with that fetus, though?
Yo,
guys, can I say one of my favorite performances in this movie was fucking Rebecca Ferguson.
She's so good.
She's so good. And like rewatching Dune Part 1, which I have a couple of times recently, she's such a badass in Part 1. But man, I loved this kind of like dark, twisted take that her character goes through. Like she becomes almost like Gollum in a way. Like, she's like in the corner just talking to herself, plotting,
But she
And
has
it
vulnerability
feels-
at the top when she's like, what is that
She
juice?
does.
What's happening? I don't want to do this because then I have to take in all the
right at the
generation of
beginning.
trauma.
But
Yeah.
man, does she
And then she
lean
switched.
into
Yeah.
it? And she's like, I'm going to take on the fucking Mother Superior or whatever.
Chose the wrong side, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What side? But man, like the conversations that she has with the baby is, I mean, it's
I did
just
like
like
that.
creepy. It's so cool. And like even the funnier moments where she's like telling it, shush, or like be quiet.
I
Oh,
caught
yeah.
more of that on the second viewing. Like I didn't see it in the first time, but yeah, she's having all these moments where she's talking to the baby,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Whoa, who are you talking to right now?" You know what I mean?
I audibly, I gasped when she did the water of life, and then you cut to the baby inside. And
Yes.
you see the blue going around
Yeah.
the baby. I was like, oh, and then it
Yeah.
followed up with one of their holy
Man.
women. They were like, we made a mistake.
What have we done?
What have we done? Yeah.
If we're going to talk about gasp moments, I also had one relating to the baby when we talk about the flash forward or whatever.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
where the guy, whoever, is like walking up on the dune, and then right as they get to the top, they're at the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she turns around and takes her hood off, and it's fucking Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
Yo,
I knew that she was there because she was at the red carpet.
we
but
all
then
knew she
I
was in the
forgot.
movie.
I forgot.
You forgot about it. Yeah, at that point.
So literally, you could have been like, "Oh, she's a Bene Gesserit or whatever, who's going to
Yeah.
show her face later in the."
I
scene."
assumed. Yeah.
But when they're like, "No, bitch, she's the fucking daughter in my tummy," you were like, "Ah!"
It took me a second. I was like, wait a second. Oh my God. That's yeah.
No, that fucked me up. I mean, literal. Like there was like 3 moments in this entire film. That was one of them where my jaw hit the floor. I was like, I am hooked on this movie.
Can we talk about more of those moments?
Yes. Yeah.
Man, it was like I had forgotten what Dune was all about and what happened in the first one. But that moment when the Harkonnen troops start floating up that cliff face,
Yeah, I think
was just
everybody
like,
globally
this is
felt
like
that.
pure cinema. Like, what the fuck is that? That's so cool.
Literally
So cool.
said, "Oh wow!" Like,
Yeah.
too.
and I felt embarrassed because, like I said, like the whole row was filled up next to me, and I was like,
That everybody was feeling that. Everybody was feeling
Well, what's
that.
funny is I felt that during the screening, and then you sent me that picture of of them flying up like that, and like the
Yes.
moment I realized
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be a masterpiece or whatever, and it was like, oh wow, I didn't realize everybody had that exact same feeling. But
"Well, the scene
that is the
itself
type of
is
visual
so
storytelling that
so subtle.
beautifully colored." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that, like sunset. You know what I mean?
and it doesn't look like they're rigged like people typically are rigged.
It's
And he's
effortless.
they're also running, and the way
Yeah.
they just kind of step off into
Yeah.
it. It's not like Superman who like zooms. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Into
It's
like
so
DC
graceful.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like I'm in the air, and it's
And
like
then from a distance, it just looks like ants going up a hill.
Yes.
Like when they pan out. Oh my gosh! No, I was just like, I'm so ready for this movie. Like
I sent you guys this.
pure science fiction.
I sent you guys this text. This was one of the tweets that I saw like right after I re-downloaded it. By the way, I had to delete Twitter off my phone before I saw this movie, and I'm
It's a
so
toxic
glad.
place.
I'm so glad I did, because when I finally re-downloaded it, I couldn't believe the spoilers that were on the internet. Anyway,
I bet.
I sent
yeah.
you guys this tweet, and it's like 4 of the shots that in the movie I remember being like, I am so in love with this movie. Obviously the beginning battle where they're fighting on the dune, when he walks through all of those Fremen in the south, and the way they're all just like parting from him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's walking. Oh my God. I mean, I just remember being like, while I wish this could be a TV show, right? Like Game of Thrones style, where I could watch 9 seasons of this. Visually, when he's like, no, I'm a visual storyteller. I'm like, yes, you fucking are, dude. Like, look at this shot.
It's funny you mentioned Game of Thrones because this shot actually reminds me of the Battle of the Bastards. When Jon is like being engulfed by like all this whole army and he's trying to reach out. I think it's kind of speaking that exact same language, except just like on a huge, massive scale.
Yeah.
And they all look like little beads of sand too.
Yeah, exactly. Like grain. Yeah.
Grain of sand. And he's just kind of like wafting away.
And he's like a worm
Yeah.
going through it. Shai Hulud. Since we're talking about it, we might as well talk about Greg Fraser, who's the cinematographer for this movie. He also did The Batman, obviously Dune Part 1. He did Rogue One.
Does this man have an Oscar?
He does. Officially, he got it for Dune Part 1
Okay,
he deserves it.
He should have got it for The Batman. But yeah, like
this guy,
I feel like if he doesn't get it for this one, I feel like that'll be disappointing. But yeah, because let's talk about that other scene on Gady Prime with the monochrome infrared cinematography.
Watching the trailer, I was like, "Oh, this is a flashback." We're doing like a black and white
the exact
flashback.
same. Yes,
but then when they're like, "Oh, we're under the black sun," I was like, "Yes, we fucking are." Oh, sorry, my Dune just came out of me.
My Dune.
You're Ed. Just to touch on what you're talking about, what a great scene! Not only was like the fight scene was really fun, but just like to see the world through that lens, and also like you're like, oh, the Harkonnens are super pale and whatever and bald. And you're like, oh, it makes sense because like you live on this fucking like,
sun.
This is a world we live in. You know what I mean?
It was effortless too. Just like as soon as you saw them walking out, you were just like, "Oh, I get it." And then they had the ink blotches of fireworks going off too. And
and then you see them at the beginning of the movie when they're coming out in those suits, and you think about like, what did the Fremen wear? What did the Atreides wear? Here are the Harkonnen soldiers, and they're in these like, I have to be in like this full suit because if I'm not in it, I'm like burnt to shit.
I love how inefficient those suits are as well. Like you can see the difference between the two cultures where there's a slim and using it. And even on the back of their helmet, there's a fan whirring behind them. And so they can even utilize their own technology effectively as much as them. And so just even those small details really already is telling so much.
Side note, in this movie, the second time I watched it, you know, when they do that bit where they're like in the sand and they have that like antenna sticking out or whatever? I didn't catch this until my second viewing, but the mouse, right? The first time you see the mouse come back,
Cole is talking to it,
and he tells him like, "Go shoot" or whatever. Bro, when I heard that, I was like, the details I'm missing. I hadn't like. No wonder people are watching this movie in IMAX for the 10th time. Like, I'm trying to catch all these details. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of ranted there for a minute.
No, we're talking about the images and the cinematography. And I think you could even see two of these images again, the silhouettes that I'm talking about that Denis likes to do.
In that text you sent?
Yeah, in this fight scene here, you see the silhouettes. In the red sand, you see the silhouettes. And obviously the sandworms, having those three is just...
There's several... Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
No, I mean, there's several where... Like he rides the sandworm for the first time, which was the scene that I got to see after seeing part 1 in IMAX a month ago.
They did that one?
They did when Paul rides the sandworm. Yeah. So that whole lead up to it, and then when he finally starts riding, it was really cool. And it was equally as like impactful the second time. So that scene really gets you hyped up.
Can I ask, Ed, just because you're touching on something that makes me want to talk about this, something that I saw after the movie.
Yeah.
You saw the scene before the movie and you saying it didn't take you out of it when you were watching it?
The second time?
Yeah.
No.
Because I
almost like blocked it from my mind because I was so wrapped up in everything that was happening.
I love that, number one. We talk about this so much, I saw the trailer, the very first trailer, and I was like, I'm not going to watch anymore. Okay. I feel like that's our stance on the podcast. I went back after the movie and I watched the second trailer and the third trailer solely because my boss was like, oh yeah, I was watching all the Dune trailers and they give away like 10 minutes of the movie. Bro, trailer 2 and 3 can fuck right off on this movie. Okay. I'm so glad I didn't watch these trailers before the movie because there were key scenes that I was like jaw on the floor shocked by that they were just like, hey, you guys want to watch this shit? They were like, you want to watch this shit? Like, here.
When Paul tells the Reverend Mother silence,
I should have never known that was going to happen.
That was in the trailer.
Was in awe at that moment when it happened.
That was
we were
so
all
cool.
like taken aback.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And not a theater experience, but also like story wise, they're building to it, right? They've, you know what I mean?
That
it's
is
like
the power dynamic where he finally is kind of in control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were
that
like,
was so cool.
Put it in a trailer.
So cool. Yeah.
You know?
Why would you put that, like, that's such a big moment. Why would you put that in a trailer?
The only thing I was thinking about trailer wise was they were going to release it and then it got delayed because of the strikes. Right. So it was like, they were like, here's the final trailer. And then they were like, oh, fuck. Okay. And then like 9 months later, they were like, we got to re-promote this movie. So here's another trailer. But it was like, the first trailer is so perfect. Just fucking re-release the first one.
Yeah.
And get people hyped again. And I understand it's a business, yada, yada, yada. But I could not believe.
You need to consult Christopher Nolan on teaser trailers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The first one's so good. Why are we? So anyway, all that to say is
what a cool moment that was, and that's what that energy that I was talking about that Timothée Chalamet brings to that scene. Because afterward, like later, when he's just killed, spoiler alert, Austin Butler, and he goes up to the Emperor and he's like, "You got to kiss the ring," and for a moment he doesn't do it, and so he like stamps his foot. I was like, "Yeah, fucking hurry up about it." Like, he's over it. He's over this shit. This guy killed his father. Fuck you. Such crazy energy.
A Timothée Chalamet fan. Okay, I was hyping up Zendaya
controversial.
Earlier.
Ooh,
no,
controversial.
But
I mean, listen. After Wonka, it was really hard to get back into it. I'm telling you, this did clean up the taste a bit. But let me tell you something. That Wonka is still a sour point in my life.
I get it.
I can't.
For me, when I watch Timothée Chalamet in the promo interviews he's doing, I'm like, that's a little boy. When I watch Dune 1, I'm like, that's a little boy. But when Dune 2, he was like, I'm the fucking Messiah. I was like, yeah, he fucking
Why
is.
does he keep turning cockney with you?
No, he's like,
Paul Atreides.
Yeah, let me get a little sand in my chips.
Hiya! But I think he really.
From the third act on, I'm like, yes, Timothée, go ahead, sir.
Timothée, yeah.
Let me hear what you got to do. You know what I mean? Yo, and when they were like, you got to kill Javier Bardem, and he was like, why the fuck would I kill my best man?
Yeah.
I was like,
I love how much Javier Bardem was so ready for it too. He's like, kill me now.
But immediately afterwards,
he's so positive. He's like, kill me, don't kill me. I love you either way, bro.
What do you want to do?
You're my messiah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Which makes the ending all the more tragic. I mean, he is so on board, and he's just
a tragic ending.
It is
I think it's interesting because when he comes in, he's like, "All right, we'll take you to the siege, and then your fates will be decided there." And he meets the kind of elders or leaders of that specific siege, and he's telling "Listen, he's the one," and you're like, Stilgar, you always say somebody's the one. You always, you say this all the time. You are the guy who always thinks this thing. You know what I mean? And at the end, to see him be right and just really kind of honed in a very scary way, he almost loses himself when they're all following him into this holy war.
And Josh Brolin, they're like, we will kill for you today, right now, today.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you've got they're flying off, and Jessica is just explaining to the baby, yo, Lady Jessica, whatever.
We'll respect her.
Her and I close. I call it Jesse.
If Prince William was in front of you right now, you wouldn't be like, "What's up, Will?"
What's up, Billy?
I probably would actually. Hey, Willie. Did your friends ever call you that, Willie?
Wow,
little penis.
Okay.
But no, anyway, as I was saying, she's telling the baby, your son, your brother is going to attack the houses. And it's just the Holy War has begun. It's that is so brutal. It's so fucking brutal.
It's also fucked up and scary too.
That's what I mean. It's just the whole thing where you feel like kind of like a sigh of relief, like Paul Atreides kind of got his revenge, but no,
at what
like
cost?
this is ongoing. But this was like the least violent way forward, at least maybe for the
he was
Fremen.
also maybe, and also, but from where he was standing, he was also very ego driven. You know, the question was brought up, like, you know, would your father would never do this, and he's like, well, I'm finding my own way to do this. Yeah. And so, yes, he's given all of this knowledge, but it's still coming from a certain stance, a certain corner, and certain angle of ego, and him saying this must be right and it must be done this way. Because the original thing was to free Arrakis.
Yeah,
you know?
I would argue
that was the original
ego.
goal.
I would argue ego because we were talking about how he was pushed into it at first, and
it's like when you get a superpower and it amplifies what you have, and it's like, I know what I can become if I do this. I don't want to do it. It's, you know, and when he does take it, he's like, well, I told you what I was going to become. Here we go.
I mean, no, well, that's what I mean. It's like, he leans into it without. I mean, it's just like, this was the choice, and this is what I have to do.
He was forced to do it because he was forced to do it because the people wouldn't leave him in the north. Remember?
And I just want to quote.
People wouldn't leave. Sorry.
I'm going to quote his father from the first film, is a great man doesn't seek to lead, he's called to it, and he answers. That's what he fucking did.
On both sides. He's being torn between these two choices.
Exactly, because he also says, I
have to just do it.
Let me also call upon Leto Atreides, saying, there is no call we do not answer, there is no faith that we betray. You know what I mean? I think those two can be very opposing thoughts. Where there's no call we do not answer, he has to go and drink the water of life. There's no faith that we betray.
And faith.
Right. And why did Leto die? Because he led by heart. And so a little bit of Paul had to die. A little bit of Paul came from his heart, from his father. But I think he had to deny his faith a little bit to answer the call. Like, you had to deny that part of it to go forward. It's like
this whole vengeance angle, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he goes into it very realistically. I don't think he actually believes he's the Messiah, but he embraces it as the role that is being put on it. And he's gonna use it. He's gonna use it
before him.
Exactly.
Right, but
so
it's a path
he is gonna take.
It's a path you could deny. It's not like he's put to a gun to his head. Yes, but I think he can deny.
Can he though?
Yes. He can, but
I think, as they illustrated, the other families weren't going to accept his rule. Like, he had to use that religious
that's the
fanaticism to fight it.
That's where the line kind of was drawn. It was like,
and he's promising them paradise, and really, the only paradise
he could
is
just
like,
say, fuck off, I'm staying in Arrakis and not have to do. If you want an emperor, go ahead.
But people would have kept coming.
He would have taken them on. Come to our land. Come to Arrakis. We'll take you on with desert power. You know what I mean? We got a bunch of sandworms taking you down.
But it's a tale as old as time.
He was threatening them. He was threatening them to destroy the spice. No one was going to come in and they have home court advantage, and he's leaving home court advantage to go to them. Like, how are the Fremen going to take desert power to other planets?
I was thinking when I was watching them for the second time, I was like, okay, whatever path you go on, what is the journey back to the Fremen? Like, because he was like, no, I am Fremen. I love you. But it's like, okay, you're out in space being like this, like, space Hitler. Like, what is the...
Who's back in Arrakis? It's like, Chani's like, I'm here alone.
She's like, where the fuck have you been? You know what I mean?
I've been enjoying the Sons of Arrakis here, riding the sandworms.
Here, you know what I mean? Like, you're out here, what?
I've been drinking my own sweat through my still suit. What have you been doing, Yeah. Like I said, I think it brings up a lot of interesting questions, because I think both it creates a lot of interesting debate about it. Like, paths being set before you, about this outside savior coming saving you, about
But I love that
that's also.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Miguel. Go ahead.
I love that they set that groundwork, like, for the lore or whatever, by being like, oh, the Bene Gesserit has been like, this is propaganda. You know what I mean? Like, they're just kind of like laying all this stuff. And I love how he's kind of like, we talked a second ago about how he's so torn. Ed, when you said earlier about how he was so torn, he in his, like, you're setting all this propaganda. Sorry, I went on a bit and then I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
No, anyway.
I had another thought, and then if your thought comes back up, but they're trying to make the what again? The quasi hereditary. What's it called? The Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah,
the Kwisatz Haderach.
Okay. Their messiah, as it were.
Okay, and they can see into the future. That person can see into the future and into the past. So theoretically, this person already does exist, and if Paul is able to read into the future, that means this person in the future is telling, like, Paul could be talking to Paul from the future to the past. Did any of you guys ever think about, like, when he hears these voices, that it could have been Paul talking to himself from the future, talking to him in the past? Or no, was that never...
It started to occur to me that it was actually, like, his sister.
Yeah.
Like he was conversing with his sister. And I don't know if that's like a side effect of the water of life, or like when
his sister feels pretty powerful too. Let me just say that, like, right away.
Fucking A. Like, and I mean, hey, if you're casting Anya Taylor-Joy as it, you've got plans for that character.
Yeah, you got plans.
And from what like Sean told me, he was saying that after Dune Messiah takes a time jump, so that his sister is born, and she's like well, according to the book in Dune, young adult.
In because I actually watched the David Lynch Dune too recently.
Oh,
and in that movie and in the book, it happens in a longer time, and she is born, and she's the one that kills the Baron. And so she's walking around doing things by the time, like, Paul's over there liberating herself, and also Chani goes with Paul to the Holy War, and in this iteration, she doesn't.
So
the baby is.
What are you up to, Denny?
That's interesting you say that, because I was thinking the internet's been talking about how Dune Messiah is going to be like this whole next step forward. Like, if you just follow the book.
Yeah.
And I've just been trying to think about, like, how do we adapt that book to the current storyline? You know what I mean? And I feel like we're going to get this, like, by the numbers, like, war movie, right? But also this kind of like psychedelic fucking spice worm movie that is kind of like later down the line in the story, you know what I mean? But we're going to adapt it for this third one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to go.
I like this spice thing about how, like, even he couldn't escape. Like, he was eating the food. He's like, oh my God, there's spice in here. Like, it just, like, there was no escaping. Like, no matter where you went, bro, there was spice. You never had spice. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the third one. Like I said, the first one and the second one, seeing them together, it's a over 5 hour experience, but I think it is a beneficial one. Like, you do get a lot from it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
I was thinking this the other day, is like, what other two-parters have there been that were deliberately so that one laid the groundwork for the second one, and or it was just a story that had to be parted 2 ways, not 3 ways or whatever. And the only thing I could think of was Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I could see as a grander and the bigger picture kind of thing. Because like we were saying at the beginning, I definitely feel like if you were to watch these 2 movies back to back, it would be so rewarding. And I essentially did that. I mean, I've been watching Dune Part 1 repeatedly, and seeing them finally, like, come together. Like I said, if it was just a twofer, like, I would be fully content, because that would just be a more ambiguous ending, but more of like, okay, Paul has embraced from the setup that he was possibly this, like, messiah figure. He's embraced that part, and what comes after that? A holy war, just like any religion that comes into power. Like, that is just the way of the world, and that's kind of like the dark, depressing truth of what's going on here in Dune, at least part 1 and 2. What that resolution is in the other books, I don't know, but like if they explore that, that's fine. But as a 1 and 2 part, I feel like this is a completed story. So if they didn't make that third part, I would be okay with it, you know?
I think so too. It's kind of like a more recent example is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, where it feels like, okay, it's still an incomplete story. Let's get to that third one. And it feels like once I have the 2 and 3, that's like kind of 1 locked in. Kill Bill 1 and 2 locked in. And
that was always
Dune was
the asterisk. That was always the asterisk with Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And equally, Dune Part 1 is like, oh, I really liked it, but it just didn't feel like a complete story. And it really didn't. And Dune Part 1 really did just, like, in hindsight now, just felt like that prologue to everything that happened in this one. And I think it works.
Yeah. It's so important to have his dad being showcased in that first one.
Absolutely.
It signifies and contrasts so much.
The Bene Gesserit, Arrakis, the House Harkonnen, that relationship. You never see the Emperor, which we need to talk about too. But like his presence is ever felt in the first one. Like it all builds up to something. And then when you come into this one, you already know what's going on, kind of thing. Like you already know how the Fremen are responding to these Harkonnen Rangers, like right at the go. You know what Jessica is going through, you know what Paul is going through, etc. But yeah, can we talk about Christopher Walken and Florence Pugh?
We can.
Please.
Okay. Your father was a weak man.
Wow.
Man, I gotta say, this is how I put it to somebody recently, but I was just thinking, like, there was probably a time in Denis Villeneuve's life where he was like, oh, I'm going to make Dune one day, and I'm going to cast the Christopher Walken as the Emperor. And there was a certain time, maybe 10, maybe even 20 years ago, where I feel like he would have been perfect as the Emperor. And this may be a side effect of the Star Wars, world, where like I have the Emperor is such a big character.
Oh, I see.
And such a theatrical character. I kind of wanted a little more from Christopher Walken, and I don't know if that's just my own expectations or not, but I was curious to see how you guys felt towards him, because I thought the casting on paper sounded great, and with no expectations of who the Emperor was, other than what Stellan Skarsgård says in the first movie, is that the Emperor is a very jealous man, a very dangerous and a very jealous man. So I was just, I don't know, I was thinking of a very precious kind of person, and he's kind of old and feeble here, and that works in a way that, like, you know, old men cling on to power as long as they can.
It does feel like, clinging on to power, and you're like, time is almost past. You know, he's holding us like, how dare you? You bowed to me. And it's like, dude, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you're holding on to something that's kind of, and that maybe that fuels his desperation in trying to get rid of the House of Atreides as well. It didn't bother me too much. Miguel, what were your thoughts on?
Sorry, I was just going to say, I really love that moment where you were saying earlier when he stamped his foot and it was like, kiss my ring or whatever. And the way he kisses the ring is like, he doesn't even touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're talking about, you know what I mean? Christopher Walken, who's got this like big, like kind of like vocal personality, but he plays these moments so subtly.
I love that. I do love that.
And he's got this, like, I was telling Kristen, like, he's a little like, you know, aged, you know what I mean? Even more so. Yeah. We've seen him a lot, but like, even in this movie, it's like, oh, he looks a little weathered. And so he's got these like really like drained emerald eyes. And when he like barely kisses the ring, I mean, I was like, he's saying something without saying it. I loved that moment.
Yeah.
I thought it was
the moment when their ship arrives on Arrakis and it's reflecting everything beneath it on the ship, Just felt so.
That's that IMAX shit, Ed.
That is the IMAX
That's
shit.
that you see all that detail.
Spice. That's spice. That IMAX spice. Okay, well, you can't talk about Christopher Walken without talking about Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that they had her kind of as the previously on kind of role, you know.
Yeah.
But like, it works so well. Like, I loved. I mean, it seems like every woman in this universe is a part of the Bene Gesserit in some capacity. Like, they're just like, yeah, we'll listen to the guys, but we're actually all just plotting over here. And I mean, also some of the best costumes in the movie too.
The way she wore that like crown that was like sitting on her face in one of the trailers. And I was talking shit about trailers a second ago, but like in one of the trailers, the one Fremen who like stays behind and like is sacrificed ultimately by the fire or whatever.
That's the one who doubted the most, right? She was like,
and we'll talk about that. Okay. She was like, in the trailer, she looks up because someone's walking towards her. And in the movie, if you've seen it, it's fucking Austin Butler. He's about to burn her. But in one of the trailers, that she looks up and they cut to Florence Pugh looking down. Oh. And it is the dopest shot of all of the trailers. Like, it's when she's wearing that shit, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it looks like she's like, I'm gonna kill you, you know? No.
Do you know who I am? I'm a Black Widow. Okay.
Bitch. But no, I loved Florence Pugh in this movie. And I loved that she was like, oh yeah, Denny was like, you're not a big role. Like, you know, you can say no. And she was like, no, I have to be in it. But there was
she's had two of those in the last year.
There's also like so many smaller roles in this movie that fucking shined. And it's like, yo, you got kind of a good one. All right.
I mean, we're making that comparison to Christopher Nolan, but it's ironic that the two of them both got Florence Pugh. Some of the hottest actors right now, but they got Florence Pugh for kind of like a pretty throwaway role, but she rocked it.
Yeah, Denis is like marking like these young actors being like Austin, Timothée, Florence. These people are like the future of like, in the sense of like all stars, like, you know, cinema, all like blockbuster people, like the Brad Pitts.
They're putting butts in seats. You know, what
Anya Taylor-Joy for thankless role. Like, come on,
Zendaya. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, why didn't we? Exactly. Yeah. My goodness.
Charlotte Rampling.
Forgive me for my sins for not mentioning her. You know.
So anyway, I hated Dune too. No,
there's one thing. Like, I do just wish like maybe they had more screen time. But like in the grand context of the film, I understand why they didn't.
It's one of those things where it's like everyone did such a good job. We want to see more of them. It's
exactly.
Like, you did so good. Let's just make this a show so I can see you more often. But
and
he
you
did
get
a good
hyped.
job of making.
I mean, I was hyped for the Emperor just because of the hanging like dread that he built up in the part one with the Emperor, and I just felt, you know, and again, those were my own expectations going into it.
Oh, I see.
And then like you put Christopher Walken on there and you cast Florence Pugh, you want the most out of them, and it's like it's hard not to have those expectations.
I will say maybe because I'm spoiled by Game of Thrones, but like Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, Austin Butler. These are like sides of the political battle that I would have enjoyed a little bit more from. Now, obviously, Florence Pugh we'll see a little bit more from, but it feels like Austin Butler, Christopher Walken, we're wrapping them up. We're done.
Austin Butler died in this film, so yes.
I mean, I was trying to be like coy.
Maybe the spice brings him back to life.
I'm just saying, like, I thought these characters would be like long lasting, and but I'm also curious to see this like off screen like houses we didn't see that are like, no,
how many houses are there?
You.
Like, they're all like,
what does that mean? You know,
these two are the biggest houses, right? That's what's being like. Is that your?
They were like the most prominent.
The Emperor is one of them. So
yeah. The Emperor's family, and that was like in Dune Part 1.
And they're like family, like is the Harkonnens and the Atreides, they're like they're cousins in some way.
Okay, so that was a revelation. I'm curious.
A big reveal.
I was curious to see what you guys thought about them finding out that they're related.
that for me, jaw on the floor moment. When
Jaw on
she
the
said
floor,
that,
but then thematically makes sense. Like he is a man of everything. It's like
after in the beginning of the movie, he's like, I know the Harkonnens. I know how to defeat them.
Yeah.
And she was like, bitch, you know a little bit more.
Yeah. And when she's like this, when she says, I didn't know until I drank the water of life. And because so Lady Jessica was also in the dark.
Yeah,
and
she didn't know who her father was.
Exactly.
And that's why she was raised by the Bene Gesserit.
Yes.
But the I'm wondering if that reflects again in like Dune Messiah, because in this movie, other than like the confrontation with Austin Butler, you don't get much of the significance of that.
I mean, he kind of leans towards the Harkonnen way instead of like his dad's way, the Leto way, you know?
Well, just as like a way of retribution, you know, and revenge. Like he's just like, I'm done with the shit. You guys push me to be the Messiah. Here I come. I'm gonna fuck you all up. And so he does. And again, the most Harkonnen way.
Harkonnen way.
I mean, if it was the most Harkonnen way, he would have killed the Emperor too, right then and there. You know what I mean?
There was a moment where I was like, you know what? I'm going to kill you anyway.
That's his honorable side, right?
It's like,
let me hold back.
I'm on spice right now. Like,
he's like, bitch, if I was fucking clean right now.
You're lucky I'm high. Oh, man.
This movie reminds me, and Sicario. Have you guys seen Sicario?
What's that?
Ed, you've seen Sicario, right?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I love Sicario. It's probably Megan. Have you seen it?
Yes. We talked earlier about the silhouettes. That was the very first time I realized, like Denis was like doing silhouettes.
Well, that brings us swiftly to our Denis Villeneuve ranking. Here we go.
And number one is Dune 2.
I'm not ready. I just think in that movie, Emily Blunt she's trying to do good and she's trying to like listen, this is the right way to do things. And then at the end, you're like, no, you are not in control at all. There's this whole other bigger system above you, and we're gonna do it this way, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it seems like that theme kind of resonates with Denis a little bit, where it's like there are powers out of your control in this life, and there's nothing you can really do. You just have to ride this wave. And so it seems like he kind of vibes with this like very cynical, look.
Totally. That's why I'm sure Dune was such a big risk. It's like this is something that's has to be told on a big scale, but you have Denis Villeneuve's kind of, like you said, cynical kind of. I mean, most of his, like Arrival might be his happiest film, but that movie's fucking oppressively miserable.
Yeah.
So, like Blade Runner 2 is miserable. So yeah, it is like
you didn't have a choice in anything that was kind of given to you,
which is very like human and
free will. Like you have no free will, and essentially kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because the system. Yeah, there's always something at work that keeps you like true justice, or however you want to look at it in that way.
Yeah,
is perceived. Like for Emily Blunt, like that was all illegal. Like, but justice was served to someone.
Exactly. Same way with this. It's like, 100%. Justice was served to someone.
So exactly. No, that's a good comparison. Yeah, I do love Sicario. For sure. Should have been Emily Blunt's first Oscar nomination, but here we are.
Are we thinking that he's going to have another movie before the next?
He's kept saying that, but I also feel like with the success of this one, he might just ride that. He might ride that worm.
What I have heard is that Messiah happens like 10 years into the later, and so it would make sense if he kind of gave it some time for everybody to age up a little bit, and then it would kind of be more impactful that way.
You guys,
again, I haven't read or whatever, but
I don't know if you heard, but James Cameron was like, we got to do Avatar 4 like 10 years from now. And he was like, we got to age these actors up. And you know what? The best directors do that. Yeah.
James Cameron said that about Avatar.
Is different than Denis Villeneuve.
Because it's all CGI. What the fuck?
These kids got to grow up. All right.
Jesus Christ.
Well, that's all I have. But I do have one more thing. Oh, go ahead, Ed. I have one button.
We have things we should just like throw out there, but go ahead.
No. I have the last button. Whenever we're ready to go to that button.
The very last button? Okay,
Yeah.
Is it the bucket button?
I got the bucket button.
Is your dick in it right now?
Oh, you'll wait to see.
No, I guess like if we're at that point where we're just wrapping it up, let's like talk about favorite moments or favorite scenes real quick.
Okay.
We've already talked about Harkonnen troops floating up the cliff face, worm riding, the Harkonnen Colosseum scene. That music, if you listen to that track, it's called Harkonnen Arena. It fucking slaps. I tell you, it fucking slaps. Like that Kiss the Ring track also. Jessica's scheming was also one of my favorite bits.
You shared that song instills so much of that romance that wasn't instilled through the scene, and so Hans really brings you in.
He really does.
When maybe the scenes or the script don't.
Yeah, there's so much. Like everybody brings their fucking A game in this film. Like where like one might falter, you got Hans there to pick you up. Baby.
I also feel like Hans here, in the first one and also the second one, but you can hear kind of his voice through a lot of the music he's been making, and here I feel like he's experimenting, and he always experiments. His voice is different in this one, which I like as well, which is nice.
Well, it's a mixture. Yeah, it's a mixture of both. You feel that Hans Zimmerness.
Yeah.
You got that like faint guitar, like in the background, and biggest disappointment, no bagpipes. I will say that. Like you guys know I've been jamming out to that House Atreides track, nonstop, and I've also been sharing it with everybody who listen. I've tried to play it for Sarah on the way to go see it, and she's like, "This is what you're jamming out to?
Yes.
You call this jamming out?" It's like, "Yes, bitch."
She's like, "Please stop."
I told her today. I was listening to the Dune 2 soundtrack all day. You know, while I was working and shit, and it's so good. That fight between Fade Rafter and Paul.
Yeah,
I mean, let's talk about that for a minute.
What's his name?
Fade Rafter. Fade Rafter. Why are you doing this to me, Miguel?
No, only because I cannot pronounce his name, and I just wanted to hear it.
Why don't you pronounce it, Miguel? How do you pronounce that name?
I was like, Feud Rafa?
No,
Fade Rafter.
Fade Rafter.
But yeah, that fight. Just real quick.
I did enjoy that fight a lot more than certain scenes. Like, a lot of it was epic in scale and dynamic, but what I liked about that is because I could see the action, and that was really nice for that last scene.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one of the jaw-dropping moments for me, and I know, and I said this earlier, like the trailers revealed so much, but going into it kind of unknown, when the I guess the Emperor's soldiers were like running into the sandstorm, and then the 3 worms show up.
Yeah,
I mean, that was when I was up front, and I was like, oh my god.
Honestly, I really wish that we just stayed with that shot a little bit longer. Like, selfishly. Like, we cut away from it, and I'm like, let me live with this for a few more seconds.
And they
bagpipes?
That would have slapped.
Whoa, Ed. Especially because his dad was like, we need desert power. So if you were able to do long shots with bagpipes, Denis, listen, do Death Stranding and add bagpipes. Come on.
At least that moment when Gertie Gertie. He when he's like about to go kill Dave Bautista, a bagpipe moment. You know, just give me a little bit of that fucking bagpipe, you motherfucker. So yeah, biggest bummer. You guys, we already talked about Paul walking through the crowd, and then Paul yelling silence.
Yes.
But do you guys have any other favorite moments?
Oh, sorry. Just to reiterate, that was spoiled on Twitter. Like, if you hadn't seen the movie and you were on Twitter, you would have seen that scene.
Was it like film, like somebody filming in a theater?
Pictures?
No, they straight up got like, I don't know how, the digital cut of it, and it was like super.
Well, because 4K. It was in one of those trailers.
And they were like, "Bitch, here's the scene."
That scene is so unimpactful if you just watch it by itself.
Absolutely, and I'm kind of one of those guys that's like, I don't care about spoilers, but it's like there's so many impactful moments in this movie, and if you're just watching them like on your phone,
if you've seen the first movie, like you understand how like powerful the voice is.
Yeah.
So when that moment happens organically, it's like fucking incredible.
He's like, bitch, what did you say?
You see how she falls back? She's like, oh.
Yeah. She just says like, abomination.
Yes.
And then, then you get Austin Butler at the side, just like, ooh. Like kind of impressed.
I love how intrigued he was when he was like, "Oh yeah, kill my dad, kill my uncle."
Because everybody's intimidated. Yes. Everybody's intimidated by the Bene Gesserit.
The first time I saw this movie, I had to get up and pee. Okay, and I tried to really hold it, you guys, but I got up right at. Hey, I did. Okay. I tried to hold it, and it was like right after he met Lea Seydoux. I was like, okay, I get it. They're horny. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Oh man, she was great in this film too.
I watched it again, and first off, yes, that scene was amazing. And the fact that he was like, she was like, and yeah, I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, is that what I missed?
Yeah. They were like, why couldn't you do it, Mother Reverend? Like, well, I'm very motherly. I'm motherly, and he killed his mother, so it wouldn't have worked out.
No, I was like, oh, and the other thing is, I saw on
he's
Twitter,
a complete sociopath. He loves pain, and he likes to be humiliated.
On socials, they were like, oh, Austin Butler, he improvised that kiss with the Baron, and
wanky.
And I had to come back to that and be like, I'm pretty sure that's when I went pee. So I went back and watched it, and I was like, damn, he really is like horny ass kissing this dude. Like that's who this dude is. He's like, he's like, I'm sex 5. Let's go. No, the gif right now is like he's like, oh, right after that kiss, you know.
Let's talk about. I mean, the internet is going crazy over Dune.
It's so annoying.
It's the memes are. It's fun. I mean, there is.
It's the greatest thing that
ever happened. I mean, it just. I mean, I've never. I wish we created something to jump on that wagon. We didn't, because we have busy lives, and y'all have children, so we can't. Pay us money. Go to our Patreon and give us money, and then we'll start making memes someday.
Memes.
Sorry, the last thing I want to talk about for Dune before we quit is Ed. What is this picture behind you right now? Like, what is this like crystal ball little hand that's happening?
But you guys know. You already know.
Get it.
No, wait, that's not very Dune-esque, right? Oh, let's do it. Dude. I'm sorry. I don't want to say no and. Excuse me. No.
It's just like I can't stop looking at it. You know.
It's the boy with the apple from Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel.
Paul Atreides.
Oh shit!
He's like,
hang me. He's using the voice. Lower me down.
Talking about voices. I'd love, look, Austin Butler, the whole meme is he's been like talking as Elvis for like 100 years. Yeah. But he came into this bitch and he talked like Baron Harkonnen or whatever. Like
that's a fucking Street Fighter move.
He was talking like him the entire movie. I was like, damn, that sounds just like him. You know what I mean?
Sound like him, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. That's what made me go, oh, okay, we're talking shit. He's a good actor.
You should be getting into improv with all these. You should join SNL. You know what I mean? Just doing like all these different voices.
He's going to be 5-timers before you even know it.
He should just do Trump whenever they do the SNL political sketches. You know what I mean?
Could you imagine? But like the Frayed Roth, whatever, like his makeup.
The Ray Roth with the Trump.
He's like, well, we're off the rails.
Miguel, out of 5. Movie.
5, you bitch. Like, I'm trying to go see it tomorrow.
3.54.
little
I think
No,
I really
no.
but I mean, yeah, because I think the romance didn't click for me. I think I don't know, man. I felt like it was all themes and intellectual, and I didn't get locked in emotionally with some of the stuff.
When you couldn't watch them jump off the worm, you were like, "This movie sucks."
No, that's not what. No, I guess a 4. But there were just times where I wanted to be. I wanted to be more emotionally locked in, and I wasn't. Is my final conclusion of it?
Okay.
Fair.
I wasn't like maybe emotionally locked in, but I was invested in everybody and everything that was going on, and it was just like an incredible, like, actual ride. Like, definitely one of the better theatrical experiences I've had lately. Yeah, like, in hindsight, like, had this released in November, where do you think this movie would be at right now?
Where would it be at? What do you mean?
Just like, we still
office?
like the world is celebrating Oppenheimer and Barbie, and
I'll say this:
it would have struggled.
I think that's why Warner Brothers also would just like, let's bump it back, because this movie is, if anything, star power.
This is.
It's also why would you want to compete with yourself with like movies like Barbie,
Yes.
and just spread it out, and they're probably looking at the slate for this year, and they're just like, yeah, we got this. We're not competing.
I mean,
we're not competing with Christopher
with
Nolan.
ourselves.
What do we really have? At least in my mind, is like this year's had Beekeeper, Lisa Frankenstein, and then Drive Away
Lisa
Dolls, which I want to see. But
Drive Away Dolls. I want to see that.
I haven't seen it, but I'm saying it's like we don't have that big blockbuster moment.
No, we don't have a superhero movie already out.
Right, exactly. Where Dune is coming up and taking the space for that, and people will be seeing it in IMAX for some time. Like, I want to go back and rewatch it in IMAX before.
I would highly recommend an IMAX viewing. It was I would go see it in Dolby, honestly.
Please. I mean, I had just a good enough time in Dolby. Like, let's go.
Yeah. And I've got plenty of people saying like, "Hey, have you seen Dune 2 yet?" I was like, "Bitch, I've seen it twice."
You're not on the internet, but there's a guy that's like, "I've seen it 10 times in IMAX."
In IMAX,
I'm not one of those people.
That's very selfish of you to retake
very
all
expensive.
10 times. Well, if you have money and you go see the movie 10 times.
So, little note here.
No, if you don't have a life, you'll go see it 10 times in IMAX already.
Little note here. I watched Dune, the first one, a couple weeks ago. Not after I saw Dune 2. A couple weeks ago. No. In my home.
Oh.
On my, I'm about to be very snarky here. On my 60-inch TV. Okay, I watched my Dune on my 60-inch, and you know what I said? I saw it and I was like, this TV is not big enough. And actually, watching Dune on my 60, I realized I need a
70.
I have a 77-inch now because of my experience. Because of my experience with watching Dune, because we were slated to get a new TV because it's like we had this one line just on down the middle in our TV. It's like old. It's a Sharp TV. Like, do they even make those anymore?
Oh, okay. So you were like, we have to get a new one.
We have to get another one. And it's like, what size do we get as a new TV?
You said 77 inch?
Well, we were like, okay, maybe we just get a 65.
What number is that?
We got a 65 inch. But we fought tooth and nail, and we got a 77-inch OLED.
Can I tell you something?
OLED.
That's
OLED.
such a, with
OLED.
respect, that's such a husband move.
It really,
honey, trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
I was watching the Dunes, and I was like, I need to be more immersed. This is too small.
I can't buy any more TVs.
Have you guys thought about
highly recommend
like projectors?
If you have money an OLED? No, because the reason why you get an OLED is because you get the pure blacks, baby, pure whites, baby. You get the contrast.
I don't see color, man.
No, it is more expensive. I
bet, yeah.
Because it's not it's not a LCD. Setup. Anyway, that's not the point. The point I'm trying to say is that this movie Dune 1 got me to get a bigger TV. I want to introduce another character here. He's called the Bucket.
Yay! Let's see. Open this bitch.
God.
I haven't opened it up yet, but I
Whip
did
it
follow.
out.
Let me tell you something. I did follow up on my plan, and I was completely right because when I went to my Friday night screening at 10:45, they were all
out.
sold
They had
out
none.
in the big ass theater. They were like, "We
Yeah.
sold out yesterday." And when
You
did I
know
go?
what?
I went to the Thursday into a small ass theater, and I got it. Look, here we go. This is the Dune bucket. This is the Dune bucket. Okay.
Take the plastic off.
For all our listeners, please
Okay, I
find
have
us
to
on
hold the
YouTube.
mic like
on our
this.
YouTube channel.
I go to YouTube. I have to hold the mic like this because you can't hear me. So they sold it as a separate topping.
It's gold on the inside.
You see that? Oh, baby. Oh, yeah. It's gold on the inside. So the bucket and the top are sold separately. It's gold
Look at
on the
that.
inside. Look at that. Shining.
Wow.
The spice inside. And it has Dune Part 2. And I think it has the two houses. That's a house.
Oh my God.
That's a house. And then, is that a house? I don't know. Yeah, those are different houses here. And then let's get to the top. This is where everybody was going for. The sandworm. Okay. I'm going to open it up. I'm opening up.
Wait. Pause.
Don't do it. Don't.
Why am I
Stop.
pausing?
Stop. Go
Okay,
ahead.
here we go. Boom. There's the worm, baby.
Oh my God. Put it on.
Okay, okay, guys. This is kind of like tight. Like there's not a lot of space. Okay. So there's a lot. Hold on. Let me talk about the tendrils here and the sandworm. It's like a small hole.
You're supposed to get your hand in that?
You're supposed to put
Do it. Do it now. Do it now.
Oh, look at that.
Do it now.
It's barely
That's a
fitting my hand.
fist.
How does it feel?
It's kind of soft, to
Stretched.
be honest. It's very soft.
Yeah.
No, it's a very soft. It's a good experience. Like if you need to get popcorn, you could really pull it out very
you
easily. But it is tough. It's a very tight fit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not trying to
Good
be.
for pulling out. It fits your hand.
I'm really not trying. I'm really not. Oh, hold on. Let me pull this.
That is massive. It's bigger than your head.
Put your head in it.
I'm really not trying to be funny. Like I'm just trying to explain it how it is. But
Yeah,
like
all right.
here's my face. This is how big this this popcorn bucket is. And look, that is a tiny hole. Like I'm just telling you exactly what I'm seeing.
Put your mic in it.
I believe you.
Okay, hold on. Put the mic in. The mic doesn't even fit in the hole.
Do it.
No, put your dick in it.
I'm just trying to get sound so that the listeners at home understand what's happening.
Why do we want to know?
No, they did.
Can you imagine getting butter on that
Of
thing?
your wrist
No,
is on
I, honestly, from the videos that I saw, I really did think it was a little bit bigger. I really did think okay, I have to be careful because I don't want to break it because it's kind of tight. Okay, here we go. There it is. I mean, look, that's the
They're
top.
going to find that in 20 years, and they're just going to be like, oh my God.
No, in 20 years they'll be like, hang on, wait.
In 20 years, they'll make an AI out of this
They'll
video.
be like, let me fuck it.
They sold this top separately, so you can have the.
Separately?
No, I'm
Rip-off.
sorry. They give it to you separately. My bad.
Oh.
So you can have just like the bucket if you're like if you don't want to experience the worm portion of it.
I mean, to be surprised.
You don't even need to take the bucket. Just get the fucking
If you feel
mouth.
self-conscious about it and just want a gold-plated bucket, just go get the bucket. Look at
That's
that.
a dope ass bucket.
Look, it's a dope-ass
It is.
bucket, and you can put popcorn. It's like a classic bucket. It says
That
Dune
is
on
cool.
it.
That is cool, yeah.
It's got a lot of house logos on it.
When I went to AMC and I bought the Ninja Turtles bucket, it was there. It was like out there. I was actually kind of disappointed. There was no Dune buckets.
You know why?
anywhere
Because
in
it got
sight.
sold out. That's why they didn't.
I
put it
learned.
out. Yeah. So,
Hang on, wait. Put it on top of Ed Stanley.
Ed Stanley. Oh, I can't.
I'm going to try.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh, man. I mean, you're just asking for it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that's the bucket. And,
I'm so glad, I'm so glad you got it,
I'm
Louise.
mad.
Thank you.
I'm mad, actually.
No, I'm just glad.
You could hopefully maybe it'll go on AMC.com merchandise. You might be able to buy it then. Who knows? But when we have our Punch Drunk Nerd headquarters, this will go there.
We'll frame it.
We'll frame it. It'll be behind a glass case. So I'm very happy that.
Or in an evidence locker. Who knows?
Who knows? I'm telling you guys, it kind of really is soft. Like, it makes sense.
Stop.
Like,
Stop.
You don't want to
Actually, guys, I love it.
Oh no, it fell down.
Leave it.
This is really my Shai Halud.
It's the biggest one. It's the grandfather Shia
What an off the rails episode. We shouldn't even do this anymore.
We talked almost like an hour and a half just about Dune.
About Dune.
Mostly Dune.
What a great movie. I think, Luis, you love it more than you actually letting on.
Well, there you go. I'm putting on airs. Let's talk about. Okay, so that's Dune. Now we're going to talk about what we're into. We'll do it quickly, right?
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about real quick, and then I'll throw it to you because I feel very selfish. When I got this popcorn bucket, and it's kind of all tied together, I feel like I'm doing a comedy stand-up right now with like this mic.
Keep it.
So when I got this popcorn bucket, they gave me an extra popcorn bucket. So they gave me an actual bucket of popcorn, and then they gave me the bucket separately so they wouldn't taint that bucket. Do you know what I mean?
That's very considerate. Straight up, like,
if you bring that popcorn bucket out right now, I'll slap you.
No. It's in my car, and that's specifically what I want to talk about. This popcorn bucket has been in my car for days. And let me tell you something, that having a popcorn bucket in your car is the move to make now in your life. Just get a big ass popcorn bucket and leave it in the passenger seat. And then when you go to chores, when you go do things and you go to work, it is so nice to just have a couple bites of popcorn. And let me tell you, that thing lasted for days, and I had I was so happy with it in my life. I just finished it today. And it was so nice to have a little bit of snackage.
I got a real question. Shut up.
Go ahead.
Can you take it back and get a free refill?
Absolutely, you can. Because at AMC A Plus, you can get free refills on your large popcorns.
But
also, just like in general, can you take it back? You know, he was like, "Can you not?"
No, because they gave it to me. I was like, I'm not going to eat this, and it just lived in my car. And then every time I got in my car, I kept like eating popcorn, and I was like, "Wow, this is actually
popcorn expires."
No, it doesn't, because
it has butter on that.
Let me tell you,
the
butter completely got settled into those kernels, and it was nice.
I don't like that.
Anyway, this episode is brought to you by putting popcorn buckets into your cars. It'll make your life better. That's all I wanted to talk about. I pass the mic to Miguel.
Yeah.
No, please don't.
Alien franchise, laugh my ass off.
Okay. I watched I'm just kind of like, I don't leave food out. Like, I would never leave food in my car. I'm sorry.
Popcorn is so different. It's not like, I don't know.
It's like matter. You're just leaving out.
Look, I honestly don't think it's bad. Like, honestly, go do it. Like, you won't get sick.
I wouldn't be finicky about leaving out popcorn. You know what I mean? Like, I don't eat popcorn.
I guess of all things,
I wouldn't be finicky about it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Next week I come in sick, like I'm just totally. I
got popcorn poisoning.
You have like popcorn kernels sticking out of your skin. You're whoa, what's going on there? You're
it's like The Last of Us. Yeah, you got that like infection.
Like, why does Luis have an accent?
Where'd you go?
Sorry. Hey, here I am. I watched the Alien movies. I was gonna do a segue into something else. I already forgot it, but I watched the Alien movies. It's kind of like, why? You know?
Did you think that only after you finished watching them?
After the fourth one, yeah. I was like, I gotta stop. You know?
I am genuinely curious because I've just played by the rule, like, aliens stop after 2.
I've never seen 3 or 4.
Yeah, never.
That blew my mind because I thought, like, for sure I was like on the, you know what I mean, the back end of the curve. I was like, oh, I'm watching it finally. But no, like the second half of this franchise is absolute dog shit. Wake up, Ed. I'm almost done.
No, I was just burping.
It's worse than Prometheus and
absolutely,
Covenant.
because like at least like Prometheus is like its own thing. But you want to know something? I watched Alien versus Predator and I realized as like a 13-year-old, I was watching like Alien and Predator content. I just didn't like accept it for what it was at the time. Like, well, hang on. First off, Alien number 1, if we're going to rank, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Alien number 1, my favorite Alien movie. Alien number 2, I watched all the way through for the first time. My tied first Alien movie. Like, it's so good.
It is.
Both of them are great. Alien 3 comes around and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know what I mean?
That's
it immediately was like, oh no, you're like,
I don't know what to do with this property.
Immediately they're like, hey, you know those things from the last one you liked? I'm like, yeah. They're like, fuck you. You're like, okay, I don't like that.
Is that actually the Dave Fincher one?
Yes, but actually, by the end of that movie, you're like, okay, I see where they were going. I see what they were doing. It does feel like an Alien TV show, like quality wise, but story wise, they're like, you understand where we're going, and you're like, okay, I kind of get it.
How does Sigourney get wheeled back into this like?
Can I spoil it? Can I just do it real quick?
It's money.
Basically, no, they were like, Sigourney, you want to come back? She was like, no, and they were like, yeah,
but it's millions of dollars.
No, okay, so real quick, what I was telling Ed, the most jarring thing about Alien 3 is at the end of Alien 2, she saves the little girl. She saves the soldier. She saves the robot, even though she hates the robot. Every character has a heart to Ripley. And they killed the alien queen. She's like, get away from her, you bitch. You know what I mean? It's like, it's an iconic moment. They get in their cryopods and the little girl Newt, she's like, can I finally have a good dream? And Ripley's like, yeah, you can. And they all close their eyes and they get in the crisis pod.
Everybody learns to never ever fuck with the aliens ever again.
Exactly. And then the third movie starts and they're like, oh, hey, guess what? There's an alien in the spacecraft. And everyone that just went to sleep, we fucking killed you. They open the entire third movie with Ripley surviving and every single other character, even the robot, dying.
Wait, Newt dies too?
Yes. So I watched this back to back and it was the most jarring thing ever. And I was over here like, I love James Cameron. James Cameron is one of the best directors out there. We're not going to have a conversation. But to go from, and David Lynch, I'm sorry, I get them confused. David Lynch and also
Fincher.
I get them confused. But the guy that did Zodiac is an amazing director, okay? And this story was not good. But visually, Aliens 3 is actually kind of awesome. Like,
visually. So the directing side of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's directing or if it's writing. You know what I mean? But visually, it's a great movie. And they actually, story point wise, they end on a really good story. Ed, wake up, I'm almost done.
I feel like third acts of Aliens are always fun. Like, I don't know. I just always feel like
if this was the Ripley trilogy, they nail her ending. And here is why Alien 4 is the worst movie I've ever seen. Okay. They somehow actually in a shitty movie give Ripley a solid send off in Alien 3. And in Alien 4, they're like, hey, guess what? Let's bring Ripley back. And they're like, she's a clone. And not only is she clone, she's like an 8th clone. She's like the 8th or 9th clone of our colony. And
she's like a robot now? Like a clone or a robot?
Android.
She's like a superhero in this movie. Like she's got super
strength.
Yeah. And it's 200 years after Alien 3. And they go, oh, well, we took your blood from the colony you were on Alien 3. And we cloned you. And not only did we clone you, but we also cloned the alien queen. So Alien 3, spoiler alert, Alien 3 actually kills Ripley and the aliens all in one moment. She kills the queen for a final time and herself, and they're done. And Alien 4 is like, well, let's bring it back.
Wait, why did they bring back the alien?
But
Money?
Who gives a shit?
Money.
You know? And at the like I said, here's the last thing I'm gonna say to this. Alien 4, I walked away from. I didn't even finish the movie. I got to the basketball scene and she was like, hey bitch, I play basketball. And I was like, I'm done.
Oh no.
That's the one with
done.
Ron Perlman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's been 200 years since Ripley and we're trying to kill the aliens again. And it's Winona Ryder. Right before she stole all that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I jumped into Alien.
I always assumed that Winona Ryder came in to play an older Newt. But clearly that's not the case.
No, I honestly, I fucking wish. I wish. You guys, what I'm trying to say is this franchise takes a turn. So much so that I got to Alien versus Predator and I was like, oh, finally a good movie. You know what I mean? And then they were like, hey, do you want to watch some Predator movies? And I was like, yeah, I could pivot. Like, let's watch some Predator movies. Alien 1 and 2 are some of the best sci-fi movies of all time. 3 really kind of just goes, oh, okay, we're doing more. 4 is like the power of greed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah,
there you go.
What a saga! What a saga!
Let's go.
Well, so did you watch Predator as well?
No, I'm building to it. Like,
okay.
Like, you know, when you were in algebra and they showed you like the scale for the first time, they were like, you can go negative and you can go positive. Now I'm working towards the positive, I guess. I don't know. I think I'm still pretty central.
Yeah, no.
Predator is good. Prey is good. The new one that released on Hulu, and then Alien Romulus coming out later this year.
Yeah.
So we'll do. We'll get you want to do a ranking, Ed?
Of aliens?
We guess we just did it because we all kind of aligned with you.
And spoilers all the way through it too. Like, I get it. All right. Cool. I'm glad you did that little journey. I love a little Miguel movie journey.
That was just kind of for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love it. That's great. When Miguel voluntarily dives into like a movie or a movie franchise,
you're welcome.
I'm just going to stand back and just wait for the review at the end.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about watching The Patriot and Master and Commander and all of that shit.
And Lincoln, like I'm about to do a history ranking. Like, watch out. I'm about to do it. Okay.
Yeah. Fucking A. I'm just going to send good vibes your way. And I hope you enjoy it so much that you're going to start asking for more recommendations.
I can't wait to watch Napoleon.
Don't. You know what?
No, I want you to. I want you to.
I honestly
just
don't
came out
want
on Apple.
It's the greatest movie you guys have ever watched.
It just came out on Apple. I would genuinely be curious to hear your opinion on it, Miguel. But yeah. All right.
Nah.
I don't have like a lot to talk about. I watched the first episode of The Regime, which is the new Kate Winslet-led black
on
comedy
HBO, right?
on HBO. Yeah.
How is it?
I get what they're going for, and it just like time will tell, kind of thing. You could tell like Kate Winslet is really just like relishing this kind of like fascist dictator role in like a other world Europe, where Europe is all one country. But so she. Well, is it a hypochondriac that feels like they're sick all the time?
Yeah.
So she's a bit of a hypochondriac, and it's because like her cabinet has kind of pushed her into this mindset where she's like vulnerable to like germs in the air because her father was too. And then she hires this guy who was a soldier who was kind of complicit in like a military accident where a lot of people, like a lot of civilians were killed, kind of thing, and he, kind of gets into her favor, and she kind of ousts all of these evil cabinet members, etc. Anyway, it's like I said, it's kind of like satire on current political landscapes right now, and also just like it seems like it's going to be a fun role for Kate Winslet. So I'm kind of here for it for the moment. It's feeling like a more theatrical Veep vibe, maybe,
right? Yeah,
without the kind of documentary feel. But so I'll see where it goes. I love Kate Winslet undividedly, so I will continue watching it and just see it. Like, it was enjoyable and surprising. So, and like I said, it feels like she's really relishing it. So I'll sit it out. But anyway, if you want a recommendation, if you want to dive into that, it comes out every Sunday right now. And then Miguel, I feel like you've watched this show and mentioned it in the past.
Yeah.
Sarah, what was it? I had just been watching something depressing. I don't know. And then I came back into the bedroom and Sarah was watching Love on the Spectrum. And so I just...
sometimes you want to be depressed, and then sometimes you want to come back to the bedroom and be like, hey...
let's watch Love on the Spectrum.
This was a while back. I haven't watched the new season. I love Love on the Spectrum.
Yeah, it was... there was one couple in particular that really grabbed my heart, and I'm just like rooting for them now. For like, I want to say her name is Abby, and the people who love the Lions and stuff.
Yeah,
like for all the other stuff that yes, there's a lot of awkward situations, and
it's one of those shows that you're like, this feels mean.
But yeah, it walks on a fine line.
Yeah,
but then you see the appreciation of the parents. And, the people involved too, like where the relationship actually miraculously works.
Yeah.
And you don't think it does, but then you see why it does. And it's actually very touching. And so seeing Abby and I can't remember his name, seeing how well they respond to each other was very beautiful to see. And you're just kind of like, I could watch a whole show about you guys.
Ed, as an Englishman, the whole first season is in Australia. How do you feel about that?
I haven't.
You thought they were all British? What was happening?
I thought they were American.
There's an American version, but the original show is in Australia.
Oh, I apologize. I guess we've been watching the American version then. Well, I didn't know they were like different versions.
I apologize. The fucking...
well, I guess we'll watch the Australian version too.
We were on some vacation and we sat down and we watched both versions, and I just loved this show. You know what I mean? It's just so like people living their lives, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, find love. I want you to do well, and not for like my personal enjoyment, but just because like life is hard and you're out there doing it, like get it.
And it, like you got to feel, well, you got to hope at least that it's like empowering to other people, to get out there and find love. And
is that like Love Coach, the Australian lady, the like
redhead?
Yeah, like she's like, oi, how are you doing?
I haven't met a single Australian in watching this show. So
honestly, you're watching the wrong one. Okay?
Maybe, but it sounds like I wouldn't like the other one. So just from what you're...
That is just Ed. That is just Ed prejudice. Okay,
just like Miguel going like, like as if the show is actually like that. Everybody yelling "oi oi" at each other.
Yeah. I'll send you a
very
link.
clinical. No, but I enjoyed it. It was very just kind of like uplifting. Occasionally like hard to watch, but like you just hope the intentions are good, but like it feels good kind of thing. You know what I mean? I've also been watching Drive to Survive. I'm sorry that the Formula One, the Formula One show.
It's like the season finale, right?
Yeah, it's they for whatever reason are stopping the docuseries after this.
No.
It's 6 seasons, right?
Yes.
Nice.
And it's really good. It's really addictive. And it goes by super fast. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Well, we did it, y'all. We talked about Dune 2 in 2 hours. So thank you for listening to Punch Drunk Nerd. Next week is going to be our 2-year anniversary. Guys, we've been doing this for 2 years. Our first movie that we reviewed was The Batman. And man, I never want to listen to that first episode ever.
No, I feel
like it'd be super cringe,
right?
Yeah, to hear myself talk about it, because you guys were like, Luis, you saw it last. Why don't you talk about it? I was so not prepared, and I was like,
is that why you spent this whole episode being like, and Miguel and Ed?
Yes, I didn't want to be first doing it. I didn't want to repeat the mistakes I made last time, but next week we'll do something special again. This weekend it'll be the Oscars, so we'll talk about the Oscars. And we'll do some special stuff for our 2-year anniversary. If you like what you listen to, guys, just comment down below. Get people to listen, please. Comment, subscribe, all of those things. It's been me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me has been
Miggy G.
Eddie B.
And remember, fear is the mind killer. As it is written.
It is written.